Well, good day again. And today I'm proud to say we've got a very special guest in the Aussie Battler chat room, and it's Sheriff Mack. Sheriff Mack from America, how are you?
Doing really good. Specifically, I am from Arizona.
Right.
And thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you here. And I know a lot of my viewers have been anxiously waiting to hear from you because, as you know, we're in a lot of trouble here. But why don't we start with you, and perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your background. You are a common law sheriff. How did you get to be that, and what exactly do you do?
Well, I used to be. I guess I still go by Sheriff Mack way too much, but that has become my nom de guerre and nom de plume. I am an author. I've written 8 books, and I haven't been sheriff for over 20 years. And that was right here in Southeast Arizona, cowboy country. But my background is 20 years in law enforcement, 10 years as a school teacher, and about 40 years as an activist for liberty for all people throughout the world, but for especially concentrated on this in America. Obviously, that's where I live. That's where I served in my career. And I will say, though, that I've had several contacts in Australia, England, Canada, and a few other countries here. Now, I gave a seminar once back in 1998 in Fiji. And so I'm very interested in the freedom of all people, of all races, of all nationalities, and from all countries. And I would shake my finger at any country, whether it be Australia or Middle Eastern countries, Asian countries. I really don't care. The government in every one of those countries has one primary responsibility, and that is to protect the liberty and God-given rights of the people they are there to serve. The people don't exist for you. Governments exist to serve the people and guarantee their civil rights, their human rights, and their individual liberty. And that's what I think governments across the world have forgotten. Certainly America is now forgetting it quite a bit. They have been for about 75 years, but it's been accelerated since this pandemic hysteria and the brainwashing and propaganda behind the COVID-19. I will say, though, I want to give your viewers and your members and the people who follow you a little bit more on my background. I started in law enforcement way back in 1977 while I was working my way through college. So that's been a long time. And I got a full-time job as a patrol officer in 1979 after I graduated. And then I tried to get in the FBI. My father was an FBI agent, and I thought I should try to follow in his footsteps. And that never worked out. So I stayed on with the police department, and that would be Provo PD in Provo, Utah. And in 1982, I served as an undercover narcotics officer. And if anybody wants to see my picture, just Google Sheriff Mack undercover photo, and you'll see what I mean. I had an afro and beard and whole 9 yards. But I learned a lot. It was a great education, but I didn't enjoy it at all because I never drank and smoked, and I never did illegal drugs while I was growing up. And now I had to participate in some of that. And I had to act like I was a drug addict, or at least that I used drugs frequently. And it was a real hard thing for my wife and me. We had 3 little kids at the time. I couldn't go home very much, and I didn't go home very much. I couldn't be seen with my wife and family in public at any time, nowhere. So it was really like being in prison in my own town. And then in '87, we decided to move home to Arizona, where both my wife and I are from. And I ran for Graham County Sheriff, Graham like graham cracker. And I won. And then in 1992, I was reelected. And in 1993, I saw President Bill Clinton signing a law, a bill. He was signing a bill, and it was the Brady bill, and it was a gun control law. And he used 13 pens, and that's the only reason I remembered it. He used 13 pens. Of course, he was left-handed, and I don't know why, I don't remember, but I remember why it was kind of weird that he used 13 pens to sign his name to a bill. And then 3 months later, January 21st, 1994, I attended a Sheriff's Association meeting of Arizona sheriffs in Phoenix. And at that meeting, there were 3 agents of a bureaucracy known as the BATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. And they attended our meeting, and they handed each of us, the sheriffs of Arizona, a 25-page document that detailed what we had to do. These were marching orders for us to comply with and enforce the Brady bill for the federal government. Well, none of the sheriffs liked this. All of them were cussing and really upset. We don't work for you. You can't tell us what to do. We work for the people of our counties. And the BATF agents left, and then we had to decide what we were going to do. But the crazy thing about this, Mike, is there was a provision in the Brady bill that required us to do this for the federal government for free. And if we failed to comply, we were subject to a year in prison, a $10,000 fine, or both, just for saying no to them. And if they need us to do something, they have to do that by contract. Because I don't work for the federal government. And I'm here to tell you, the federal government has no authority to tell me or any other sheriff or any other state official to do anything. The federal government is not my boss. They do not hire me. They cannot fire me, and they cannot tell me what to do. I was voted in by the people of my county. I was there to serve them, and the sheriffs in America have no other boss or supervisor except for the people who appointed me to be their sheriff when I won the election. And so I decided that I would sue the Clinton administration, and I did. And luckily, 6 other sheriffs joined me in that lawsuit. Now, there's 3,080 sheriffs in America, over 3,000. I was the one who started this whole entire lawsuit. 6 other sheriffs joined me in this from around the country. Sheriff Prince from Montana and I ended up at the Supreme Court together. The other sheriffs came to the case as well. And on June 27, 1997, the United States Supreme Court ruled in a 5-4 split decision that the Brady bill was unconstitutional and that they had no authority to tell sheriffs to do anything. So we won on that. It was a 10th Amendment decision, and it was one of the highlights of my life and absolutely a highlight of my career.
That's fantastic. You know, we've only just started really learning about common law in Australia. And we started up the first common law assembly here on the Sunshine Coast where I live. We've now got over 500 members of the assembly. And that assembly has elected about a dozen sheriffs. Some of them have gone on to other assemblies. I'm a sheriff, but we really don't know what to do. I mean, we've read the books and everything else, but you know, a lot of people say, well, where's your power and authority come from? And so I'd like to ask you that question first. I mean, I know the answer, but I think it would be good for Australians to hear from you where the power and authority comes from for a sheriff, and what can we do? How can we enforce the law or not enforce, but hold up the law and our rights and freedoms?
Well, I think you're talking about two different kinds of sheriffs, though, aren't you? If you are a common law a sheriff appointed or elected by your assembly, that's different than how I was elected.
Hmm.
All the voters in my county elected me to be the sheriff.
Hmm.
When I'm wondering, I don't believe that's a common law. What you guys are determining to be a common law sheriff.
No.
I was actually elected on the regular ballot the same year that Bill Clinton got elected. I got elected. His second term was my first term as sheriff, and he got reelected, and I lost my third term. So the sheriffs in America, for the most part, are elected in every county in America.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not sure that's what you're talking about when you talk about a common law assembly sheriff.
No,
that's not the same thing.
No, it's not. We have a peculiar situation here because when Australia was federated in 1901, we have a constitution which is actually a bill from the British Parliament, which allowed the six former colonies to unite as 6 states under a federation. And that Commonwealth Constitution is the roadmap for the structure of our government, and it enunciates the powers that the government has. Unfortunately, what's happened is that the states now have abrogated the Constitution, and basically we're ruled by a lawless bunch of criminals, which is pretty common around the world these days.
It is. It's very common here.
Yeah, so what we're trying to do now is to establish the rule of law and our rights again in Australia, but that's a very big uphill job because we just don't have the infrastructure. Like you said, the counties elect you and therefore all the voters do it. However, in Australia, we don't have a tradition of law of sheriffs per se. So what we've started to do is each assembly is able to form a local government because the assembly members sign a charter which binds them to an oath where they vow to protect the Constitution, the law, and the community and their families. So each assembly has all the powers of a local government, but the assemblies only have the members. And so far, we haven't been able to take control of the electoral system. That's coming, but it's going to be a long, hard haul. So what we're trying to do now is we're establishing these assemblies to educate people, facilitate getting organized, and then activating our people to actually stand in common law. That's our motto: educate, facilitate, and activate. So we have quite an uphill job, but as the COVID scam has taken hold here, the state governments have just become more and more draconian, which has been marvelous for us because it's been pushing people into our arms very quickly. And so we're getting organized. We have assemblies now in most states, and those assemblies are growing week by week. So as more and more people hear about what we're doing, eventually I'm pretty sure we're going to meet that tipping point where we will take back control of our government and make them our servants rather than our masters. So, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was because with your experience in organizing a sheriff's department, if you go onto our website, commonlaw.earth, we actually do have all the information on there. Well, not all of it, but quite a lot of information about how we organize a sheriff's department, etc. Very often, though, people ask us, what powers do you have as a sheriff? Well, according to our Assembly Constitution and the charter that we sign, we have all the powers of a local government. That means we can pass laws, we can elect sheriffs, we can even convene common law courts, and we can even form a local militia. Well, we don't have any guns, so we can't form a militia. But
well-regulated militia.
Well, we're a well-regulated bunch of slaves.
Well, we are talking a little bit apples and oranges because there is a difference between your common law assembly and what we have here. This is the normal county government, not assemblies. and probably not. It's partly common law. It is, but because the office of sheriff is very historic and goes back over 1,000 years in old Anglo-Saxon law. And first he was called the reeve of the shire reeve, and then sheriff, and that evolved over 10 decades. But and in fact, 3 of our founding fathers who signed the Declaration of Independence were former sheriffs, and the sheriff was the first law enforcement authority in the colonies as America started to become a new nation. However, I was elected by, for, and of the people, and in doing so, I took an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution, and thus protect the liberty of the people who appointed me to be their sheriff. Every 4 years, every election, they get to review my job performance and say if I'm going to stay or not. And so the sheriff in America has immense authority and power because he is not a bureaucrat. He is a direct representative of the people in his county. His jurisdiction is the geographical boundary of the county. As I said, there's over 3,000 sheriffs because there's like 3,100 counties in America. There are 3 states that do not have sheriffs, and that would be Hawaii, Alaska, and Delaware. And Delaware actually had a referendum where they kicked the sheriffs out, and they got rid of the office of sheriff. A huge mistake, because this is the thing. Like I said, the office of sheriff goes back over 1,000 years. This is an amazing historical office, and it has changed very little. The sheriff always had the assignment to be the conservator of the peace, to be the protector of the people, and to enforce the rule of law, and to go after lawbreakers, whether, no matter what. It could have been a highwayman who is stealing and robbing, rapist or whoever, murderers. The sheriff has always been in charge of that. He's always been in charge of the jail and locking people up, making sure that they get to trial and that their rights, even of the accused, and especially of the accused, are being protected. What I have proposed, since I won my lawsuit in 1997, I have proposed to American sheriffs and to all public officials, cops, patrol officers, anybody and everybody in public service, that we have swayed way off the constitutional path. And that if we're going to take back liberty in America, we must get back to our Constitution. And there's no way that we can restore liberty to America without the county sheriffs participating in the process. And so the sheriffs must be united with their people, with their boss, in making sure that their rights are not being violated by other government officials. Now, some people have said, well, Sheriff Mack's just teaching sheriffs and peace officers to hate government and to be anti-government. No, we're very pro-government, as long as you're following the Constitution. If you're not following the Constitution, then you're not American government. You're criminal government, because all of us swore to be supporters of the Constitution. And it really appears that our government, especially the federal government, Washington, D.C., has become very corrupt. They've got us in $30 trillion of debt, even more if you take the pledge of what they've pledged to spend. That's like 180 trillion. And they don't think it's any problem. They continue to spend. Like right now, they're going to put another 3.5 trillion in debt for this another stimulus package or whatever it's called. And that's not their job. That is against the law to spend money that you do not have. And obviously that's some of the mild stuff that they're doing that is so corrupt in Washington. But be that as it may, the sheriff has the duty and the obligation to protect his citizens from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And we're training our sheriffs to let all federal and state and local authorities know and understand that we will enforce the Bill of Rights in our community, and we will not allow anyone else to come in our counties and violate the rights of the citizens. That protects everybody, and there shouldn't be such pushback. But we're getting people so mad at us for doing that. We're simply telling everyone that we want to protect the rights and the liberty of all people. Why do you get so mad? You know why you get so mad? Because you're a corrupt politician. Is why. This only hurts a tyrant. It doesn't hurt. It helps everyone become free. And my organization is CSPOA.org. Stands for Constitutional Sheriffs Peace Officers Association. CSPOA.org. And we will accept donations from anybody from any country. We would love to be have you be a part of it. Everyone. And I know you have people that watch your show from all over the world. And I know some of them are right here in America. We want everybody to donate, to be a part of this, become a member of our posse, and spend a little bit, $11 a month. We get funded by people across the world and across the country. We don't get funded by some rich George Soros billionaire. We don't get funded that way. We get funded by people, grassroots, an effort to restore liberty. And like I said, I would love to come to Australia and teach my seminar there so that everybody can see that we are about maintaining and protecting peace and liberty. And we teach and train about the power of peace. And we believe when the Declaration of Independence that Thomas Jefferson wrote, we believe that all men are created equal. Yes, that includes women, but it includes everybody. It includes the only race that's really important, and that's the human race. And liberty, as I said before, and I'll say it again, is for all people, all God's children, and it doesn't matter what color you are, what nationality you are, or what religion you are. It is for everyone. And we do not support violence of any kind.
Good. Well, we are aiming at the same thing. We survive by donations through our website, and each assembly is also autonomous and independent, and each assembly sets up their own treasury department and got bank account, and they survive on donations as well. So, we are beholden to no other man, only our community. So you mentioned the Constitution. Now, our Constitution is based on common law as well. Our founding fathers referred to the American, the French, and many other constitutions when they were writing it. And to be honest with you, I think our Constitution is at least as good as the American Constitution in many ways. It's different. But
you probably have the same problem we have. Nobody goes by it.
Exactly. So what we're trying to do now is to move back under our Constitution. I have a website called advance-australia.com.au, and we lay out a 5-point plan there to get our country back on track. But to start implementing that plan, we first of all have to take back control of our government and make them the servants of the people as they're supposed to be. Right. So the sheriff's departments are very involved in all of this, because it's going to be our job to uphold the law and protect our rights. And to do that, we need to get funding so that we can get our sheriff's uniforms and training and all the other things that a sheriff department needs, including jails. We've got plenty of jails in Australia. They're filled up with a lot of people who are probably not really criminals. Of course, we do have some criminals in there, but I know people who are in jail for just not, maybe speeding. That's not a crime. It's a transgression against society, but it's not a crime.
Well, I have maintained that for some time now, that our government is creating criminals.
Yeah.
They're not discovering them. They're not investigating them. They're literally taking innocent and good people and making them criminals.
Yeah.
Because of their bureaucratic regulations and nonsense. And I will tell you this, I believe that everybody should pay their taxes. But failure to pay taxes properly is not a reason to be put in prison the rest of your life.
No.
It's not a reason to be put in prison at all. And that you should simply pay back whatever that you constitutionally owe, that you lawfully owe. And if we weren't having to pay for all this corruption and all this ridiculous spending, none of us in America would be spending very much on taxes at all. Yeah. But I really object to the federal government and local governments building so many prisons, filling them up with bureaucratic violations and drug problems and drug addictions and drug trafficking. And I will say this universally, the drug war has been a huge failure, and all it has done is help us fill the prisons with otherwise good people. And this whole prison system is just a bunch of money making. It's a big business, and I am against what we have done worldwide in putting too many innocent people in prison.
Yeah. Well, the government's going after me at the moment. They're trying me in a court in Victoria, where I live in Queensland. So they have no jurisdiction over me, but they're trying to try me for publishing an article. Is that a crime? Even if it was an article about an ongoing court case, I have every right to the freedom of expression. And yet they're trying to put me in jail. The court case has now been going on since December 1st last year. They're about to hear my submissions where I've charged them with being traitors in treason. They've got no jurisdiction. So, you know, this is what governments these days do. They hound innocent people and put them in jail. So one question that I wanted to ask you was, as a sheriff, can you, sorry, I've got a phone call here. I'll just shut that up. Can you deputize the local police?
Yes, but you know, that's kind of a different situation here. Probably wouldn't need to do that, but I can deputize anybody I want. In fact, federal agents asked me to deputize them, and I told them no. But the point is, the city police, the city is inside my county, and they have their city police. And the ultimate authority is still that of the sheriff, because the chief of police is just appointed by the local town council, and he doesn't answer to the people. He answers to the town manager. So it's similar, but it's not the same. However, what is the same is the chief of police and the sheriff swear the same oath of office to uphold and defend and obey the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Arizona, or whatever state we're talking about. So the sheriff can override the local city police department, but there's a gentleman's agreement that they kind of keep to each other's jurisdiction. And they need, especially now though, to try to be on the same wavelength. And I'll tell you why. Anyone in Australia, any mayor or president or prime minister or any legislator, anyone working in government, if you think you have the authority to take people's guns away from them, if you think you have the authority or the prerogative to disarm law-abiding citizens and disallow them the potential to self-defense, if you think because of all the hype and hysteria that you have any authority to shut down businesses, to suspend public gatherings, to tell people they must wear a diaper on their face, if you think you have the authority to shut people's businesses down, to arrest ministers for having church, for arrest people for going to church, and to suspend your constitution and to suspend the liberty of the people, then you are flat out wrong. And anyone who does any of that kind of criminal corruption, anyone who believes they have the authority to do that, as long as they can say to the people, we're doing this for your own good, that is a lie. It's propaganda. And it's the same thing that most of the communist dictators throughout the 20th century said to their people. We're doing these horrible things to you because it's for your own good. You are here to protect the people's rights, not to guarantee their health. You protect our liberty so we can choose our own health programs and protocols for ourselves. We raise our families. We educate our children. You don't have any right to shut down schools and force children to wear diapers on their faces everywhere they go and cause all these other numerous problems of depression and suicide and family fights and domestic disputes and all this other crime that you're locking people down. And locking people in their homes, my dear friends, is actually something that judges do when they run out of prison and jail space. It's called home arrest. So you putting people on home arrest is the exact same thing we do to criminals when we don't have enough room in local jails. All of that is absolutely inexcusable. And we should be taking the approach that, yes, we might have a health problem here, but I have no authority ever to suspend liberty, suspend the Constitution, and suspend civil and human rights. You do not have that. You don't have it in Australia. We don't have it anywhere in America. And those who are practicing that are doing so against the law, and especially against common law. You have no authority to do that. So anyone who wanted to read my case, you will see where Justice Scalia wrote a part where he says, quote, the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. My dear friends, that applies to Australia or London or any place else. Also, he said, the Constitution protects us from, quote, the crisis of the day, end quote. My dear friends, you see, if government can use any excuse and use public health as an excuse to destroy liberty, there will always be another crisis of the day. We're already seeing that. COVID-19 is now repeating itself. First, they said you'll need to wear them. Well, first, they said in America, especially Dr. Fauci, that you didn't need to wear a mask. Then it's you need to wear a mask. Then you only need to wear a mask for a few weeks. This is only going to last a couple of weeks. Then it was a couple of months. And then he said at a press conference, a reporter asked him, how soon do you think a vaccination could be ready for this? And he said, that would take 2 to 10 years. Now we get this vaccination, and it was like in a matter of 2 or 3 months, and it was never properly tested. To be properly tested, it would take 2 to 10 years, just as Fauci said. And so what do we have? We have an untested, poisonous vaccination. And first it was one vaccination. No, you need 2 vaccinations. No, now you need 2 vaccinations and a booster, and you need all of them every year. And there is no proof that a diaper on your face reduces your chances to receive this disease. There's no proof of that.
No.
None. And there's no proof whatsoever that this vaccination is working any better than our natural herd immunity is doing. And those evaluations and analyses do not exist. But I will tell you something else for my Supreme Court case. When I sued at the district court level at the very beginning in Tucson, Arizona, the judge said, quote, your statistical, and he was saying this to the federal government, Your statistical analysis does not equate to constitutionality. And that's the same thing here. My dear friends, the statistical analysis of vaccinations, of whether they work or don't work, do not make it constitutional.
No.
They don't make it lawful, and they don't make it right. Statistics can always be manipulated, and they don't prove liberty. Liberty is proven in our American history and our world history, and it's proven by our founding fathers, and it should be proven by those who serve us today that protect our liberty regardless of what's going on. We were meant to be free and make our own choices, and whether I get a vaccination or whether I wear a medical diaper on my face is my choice and not that of the government.
Well, as President Reagan said, I'm here from the government and I'm here to help. And those are the scariest words in history.
The scariest words in history.
But in 1946, the Australian people actually voted in a referendum to amend the Constitution to give the government the power to provide, among other services, medical services. It did not give them the power, however, to force us, and it's actually in our Constitution.
Yeah.
Yet these governments, these state governments, and even the federal government are now trying to force us. But what this has done, we Aussies are slow to anger, but when we do, that boils over, we take action, and that's exactly what's going to happen next Tuesday. All the truck drivers in Australia now are going to stop their trucks on the roads, blocking all the entrances and exits to the borders, to the ports. We're going to shut down the whole country, and we're going to show the government who has the authority and the power. It's we, the people, not these bureaucrats and politicians. And I think this won't last too long because people will go hungry. We're telling people now to go and get stocked up. I've got a few weeks stock in the fridge and cupboards. I'm prepared for it. But you know, unless we take action now, we're going to lose our rights and liberties and country. So I'm calling on all of Australians to support the truck drivers and to, if you can, join an assembly, because with these assemblies, we empower you to take responsibility for your own actions. And in fact, the two central tenets of any common law is do no harm to others and take responsibility for your own actions. So if we can get people to join these assemblies, we can then form enough assemblies across the country to start holding constitutional congresses to discuss how the Australian people want to govern ourselves in the future. And that may entail a series of carefully considered referendums to amend our constitution. So for instance, some of the points that we're proposing is, number one, to bring in CIR, citizens initiated referendums, coupled with a digital on the blockchain protected voting app, so that we can vote on an issue at any time, anywhere. We want to reorganize our political electoral system. Right now, we have about, I don't know, each electorate has about 100,000 people. No representative can represent 100,000 people effectively, and we have no recall. So if a representative does not do the job, we can't recall them here. We want to change that. And what we want to do is we want to create smaller electorates of, say, 5,000 voters, combine 50 electorates into a regional government, getting rid of the state government, and those representatives will be directly accountable back to the people and can be recalled at any time. And each region will then elect one representative to the federal parliament. We'd have about 100 regions around Australia. So we would end up with smaller government that is directly accountable back to the people and can be recalled. This is very important. Now, you mentioned taxes before. We propose getting rid of all these personal taxes and government business taxes. We have a single tax for business. Every time they do a bank transaction, they pay a tax. It could be 0.1 or 0.2%, and that would be more than enough to run the country. And at the end of the year, if there's any money left over, that gets paid out back to the people as a dividend. So these are the sorts of things that we're proposing in the Advance Australia website. So we have a plan. We know where we want to go, And the only way we're going to get there is through common law and our assemblies. So I hope that now that we've established contact, that you and I can work together, and we will join your organisation, so that we can build our sheriff's departments here. We have a long tradition, as you say, of sheriffs in common law and in England, and by translation to Australia. We just haven't done it until now.
My first correction for you would be to call them sheriff's offices, not departments. They're not departments.
Okay.
The department is a division of another branch of government.
Good thinking.
An office answers to itself and to the people. The office is that of the people. It is the sheriff's office.
Good idea. Yeah. I'll make that change in the website. Thank you for that.
Okay. All right.
Sheriff Mack, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I hope we can get together again soon, because I'm sure you've got a lot of knowledge there that we can work with and learn from. So
I'd love to help in any way I can. I appreciate what you're trying to do, and thanks again for having me.
My pleasure. And next time I'll try and wake up a little earlier. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Talk to you again soon.
There's still Aussies who remember days when we were living high, sunny days and hot Decembers. Damn politicians thought they'd never lie. We made everything that we needed. Jobs were there just for the taking, but the warning signs all went unheeded. We didn't see disaster in the making. We the people will stand strong and true, standing for the red, white and blue. Time to join together with our mates, to take a stand and make our country great. We the people will stand strong and true, standing for the red, white and blue. Time to join together with our mates, to take a stand and make our country great. This is our land. Come on now, take a stand. We're fighting for the future of our nation. The time has come for all to lend a hand. United, we are ready to take action. Come on, Aussies, are you true blue? Come on, Aussies, now it's up to you. Are you ready to stand up and fight? Stop bowing to your masters, begging for our rights. We the people will stand strong and true, standing for the red, white and blue. Time to join together with our mates, to take a stand and make our country great. Days when we were living high, sunny days and hot Decembers. Damn politicians thought they'd never lie.